Welcome to Yes Also. I'm Suzi Barrett, and my guest today is bona fide genius Zach Reino. You know Zach from Dropout, and as one half of Offbook, the Improvised Musical, which he does with Jess McKenna. As I say during this interview, I think they have the best musical improv thing going. So if you haven't checked them out yet, make sure you do, either by listening to their podcast or going to see them live. They'll be announcing tour dates for their fall tour, so keep your eye on their website at thezachandthejess.com. Zach has a ton of great advice for aspiring musical improvisers in this episode, and I was so antsy to get inside of his brain and find out more about things like how he views game, how he approaches group games, and what he looks for when he's on the back line, and all of that is in part 2 of this episode. Part 2, as always, can be accessed by going to yesalso.supercast.com and subscribing, and you can support the show in other ways by leaving a rating, a review, following us for free on YouTube, and following us on Instagram at YesAlsoPod. Okay, enough chatter. Let's get to Zach Reino. Zach, welcome.
Suzi, thanks for having me.
Oh, I got a musical note right off the bat.
Yeah. What's that?
D flat.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Uh-huh. Talk to me. Let's start there.
Hi.
Are you a musical person outside of musical improv? Like, were you always learning instruments and stuff like that?
You know, instruments came to me later in life, but I was always like singing was like musical theater was my thing for a while.
There
like I went to, I did musicals all through growing up. Like in the summer when schools would do them, I was super excited. And then I went to college with the express idea that that was what I was going to be doing. Like,
including like heading to Broadway and like you were...
Yeah, the idea was to move to New York and do that. When I enrolled in college, that was my thought. And then by the time I left college, I knew that wasn't going to be...
Those nerds.
I learned that I could not be in dance class 5 days a week post-college, which is a thing. Like if you want to work on Broadway and you are a comedic type, which is me, like I'm not leading men roles on Broadway are not a good fit for my skill set. Like they're one, not interesting to me for the most part, and two, they're like I want to do the comedy roles. The comedy roles on Broadway, at least at the time, were mostly like mid 40s and up. They're like they're much older. So like if you want to have already been working in Broadway, by that point, you'd be in the chorus and you're doing like small tracks. And if you want to be in the chorus on Broadway, you better be like a capital D dancer, which I am not. And that was not a road I wanted to go down.
How little was your D?
It was bigger than most, I would say.
Your D was bigger than most.
It was bigger than most if the D we're talking about is dance. Like,
yes.
To sort of contextualize this, my school, UC Irvine, created a musical theater BFA while I was there.
Oh, wow.
And I could have transferred from my normal degree that I was in to that, but I had to take one more ballet class to qualify, and even that was a bridge too far.
You
for
refused?
Me. I was like, I'll just have my normal degree.
They broke you with the amount of dance.
Well, also I'm very proud of the broadness and scope of my bachelor's degree, but dance class was not my thing.
Yeah, same.
But I have a fair amount of experience in tap and jazz and a little bit in ballet. Like I've been in dance classes my life.
God, I would pay to see you like tap or do throw down on a ballet bar.
Someday you'll be allowed to.
Yeah, right.
Someday it'll come full circle.
Yeah. And now there are more young comedic roles in Broadway shows.
Yeah.
I feel like the trend is going that way. Book of Mormon and Beetlejuice and or things that people can play at any age. They're not playing the dad and Bye Bye Birdie.
Right. Yes.
Right.
I think, and I hope, and I want for Broadway to be doing what I think it is trying to do, which is just like reach a broader audience and not just doing, there will always be a space for them to do a revival of Gypsy over and over and over and over again. They do that.
Yeah, sick burn.
No, Gypsy's fine. Eat a dick, Gypsy.
Eat a dick.
Yeah, but like there is. I mean, it's a rough time for theater right now. But I do think that we are going to reach a point, and there are many people trying to do this, myself and my writing partner, Jessica McKenna, former friend of the pod.
Yes, former friend of the pod makes it sound like we've
excommunicated her.
We've severed all
guest
ties.
Of the pod,
yeah.
Current friend, former guest are like trying to do. It's to like make musical theater cool, which sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But it's like, I do think theater in general has a problem with its availability, and it feels like a very like ivory tower thing.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be, because it's like theater's great. Like, and also people are writing really cool stuff for much broader and much more diverse audiences than they once did.
Yes.
So it's still expensive.
It's expensive. It's getting more and more expensive. And what you were going to say something.
Well, I was talking to a producer a while back who was like, here's how the business model for theater works. You must have variable price seating. Like the seats in the front for theaters to function, like so far economically, as far as anyone's figured out, the seats in the front have to be really expensive so that you can sell seats in the back for less money.
The rich elders in the front rows are subsidizing the cheap seats for the rest of us who, yeah,
they have to be straight up like old school patrons of the arts.
Right.
Like they exist, which is why when Improv a couple of years ago was when like, we have to pay people in these and like to do stuff. I was like, y'all, the economics of this are complicated because people are used to paying $7 to sit anywhere they want in this tiny theater. And I don't think a lot of people understand how slim the margins are. Like no one is like,
Yeah, no one's, there's not some like Mr. Monopoly back in the tech booth of any improv theater putting his monocle on all his sacks and going,
yes, Harold Knight has made me a wealthy man. Where all the tickets are free to students.
I told you all, free parking my ass, you will pay and I will win.
Oh, man.
This
is a good character for you.
Oh, great.
You need to bottle that. Whoever that is, you need to take that.
All I did was mirror you, so no. Let's back up the train a little bit.
Sure.
UC Irvine, you grew up in Orange County?
No, I grew up in Santa Barbara.
Oh, okay.
I am a California.
I feel like I knew that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a California kid, so I didn't go far. I went down the coast to UC Irvine. And then
you surfed to get to the school.
I did surf. Weirdly, I have a lot of dance experience. I have no surfing experience for someone that grew up basically next to a beach.
Yeah. Is that, why is that?
I don't know. It just never sort of presented itself. I like the beach.
It never presented itself.
No one came up to me.
No one asked me.
No one came up with a surfboard and said, "You want to get on this?
You want to hang 10?
You want to hang 10? You want to get in the green room, bro?
Yeah.
You want to shred? You want to be in the Whitecaps?"
But a lot of people came up holding dance belts and were like,
"How does this look to you?" And I'm like, "Well, I've seen Cats, so I am in."
I am in. What was the first piece of theater that you saw that made you fall in love with theater or made you want to try out for plays or?
Oh gosh, I don't know what the first one is, but we did, no joke, have like a VHS cassette of a recorded version of a live showing of Cats. And like I was young enough to be like Cats is like a dance circus.
Yeah.
It has no plot. I mean, it does have a plot, but the plot is...
It's a collection of character poems.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's T.S. Eliot really letting it go wild. But there was that in conjunction with, I had a Phantom of the Opera 2 CD set.
Wow.
And I think my
2 CDs, how'd they stretch it? Is it that... In my memory, that show is not that...
I mean,
bulky.
I think it's a 3-hour show, no problem.
Okay.
And I think it's possible there is some padding on that second CD, some bonus tracks,
some reprises.
I mean, there's definitely some reprises. Also, I mean, I haven't seen Phantom in so long. I don't know how much of it is sung through, but I think a lot of it is.
Yeah.
That's a long...
It's okay. Yeah, I don't like that show. So I in my mind it's like
because of the theater safety, right?
What do you mean?
Because it's so dangerous in that theater, and you're such a big proponent of safety in the theater.
I'm a proponent of safety, and I'm a proponent of not causing your own body shame. So take the mask off.
Take the mask off.
You know, it's a safe space. If you lead the charge and show us your confidence, then we will follow.
And stop trying to assassinate the old ingenues because you have a new ingenue who you like.
Please,
you gotta stop.
And I do think that theater pricing could would change if we cut down on the assassinations.
I mean, they have to rebuild that chandelier every week. So like that's not cutting into the budget.
Right, yeah. When did improv enter the picture for you?
Technically in high school, but in a bigger way in college. So in like my awareness of improv, I think like many people of my generation came through like Whose Line Is It Anyway? That was the first time we saw it. It was on TV and it was like, wow, this is so great and so funny. And so I started or with friends started an improv club at high school.
In high school? Wow.
Within like theater people. And we performed for no one. It was like truly like the club would meet the way that any club meets and we would just like do improv games together.
Similar, yeah.
And I think that only happened like my junior and senior year. I don't think that was all 4 years.
And you guys were grabbing games from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Straight up, taking them. There was no comedy sports in either my college or my high school. Like it just wasn't there. So we didn't even know that was a thing.
So you, at this point, you didn't have any, you're heading towards college with the goal of being on Broadway. This is just like some little extra thing
Correct.
You're doing for fun. Yeah.
But it happens very fast because what happens is I get to college and there is the musical theater track in college has levels in it. And you test when you first get there into musical theater 2. Like you do a performance and you basically audition to get into musical theater 2. And if you don't, you can still do it, but you start in musical theater 1. So like my first week as a freshman, I did this test, picked a song that was probably wrong for me and or just had a bad audition and I didn't get into musical theater 2.
What was the song?
I don't remember. It was probably, I think I was mostly auditioning with When I Look at You from Scarlet Pimpernel. A musical I have never seen.
I saw it on Broadway.
How was it?
The summer I lived there. Utterly forgettable.
Okay, yeah. I really like a lot of the music to that, but like I've never seen it.
It was
utterly forgettable.
Yeah, it was fine.
Which sucks because like it should be like a cool French Robin Hood musical.
Yeah, and maybe maybe it's just that I saw so much that summer because I was trying to see as many shows as possible, and it got blown away by things like Blue Man Group for me that like blew my mind. You know?
Yeah, they were very radical. Was that your favorite show that you saw?
Blue Man Group?
Yeah.
One of. I loved Chicago.
Sure.
I saw BB Newirth. And we got the lottery, so we sat in like the first or second row.
Incredible.
It was incredible. I think those were the two brain blowers. And this Argentinian group called De La Guarda that was off Broadway that just did the most incredible piece of theater I've ever seen.
Oh man, incredible.
They like it's not worth taking the long walk into it, but
we have to talk about Fringe sometime.
Oh,
Fringe Festival.
Yes.
Because I feel like there's like, I'm guessing about what this piece of theater was, but like the stuff that goes on there is stuff that you would never see anywhere else except for maybe now that it's happening more. But it's like, it is like life-changing when you're like, you can do that on stage?
Totally.
And I feel like improv has had a lot of moments for that for me when I have watched, performers in the generations above me do stuff. It's like a door clicks and unlocks.
Yeah, this was very like you can do that. I'll take a brief departure and describe it because I've never seen anything like it before or since. We got shuffled into, it was like all standing. We were shuffled into this little black space. They turned all the lights out. It was completely dark, and then this like soundscape starts and this weird sound, and then the ceiling lights up, and it's like a white ceiling that's backlit, and like shadows start moving across it, and we start seeing like the shapes of humans kind of like taking form. It was like, oh, this is like an aerial ballet above a lit ceiling, and we are just standing and looking up at humans appearing. And then it evolves into the sound of rain. It's a paper ceiling. It gets rained on, and now the performers start tearing through. A performer tears through, ties something around an audience member, and kidnaps them up through the ceiling.
Okay.
And then the walls start spreading open and lights, and now we're in a giant warehouse and getting rained on, and there's people swinging down, and now it becomes this like circus dance experience with live drums, and we thought we were in a tiny black box seeing some weird music show, and we're in a giant warehouse at like a wet dance rave.
What a trick.
It was incredible. And all of the brain doors that open of like, you're allowed to do that.
I can't believe you almost
can do
didn't tell that story on this podcast.
It felt so not improv related.
No, I feel like, God, I mean, sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah. So compare then, the next night, Scarlet Pimpernel.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Save your foppish patter song.
Yes.
I was just in a wet rave dance party.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm still wet.
Yeah. And I never won't be.
I never won't be wet. Anyway, but Fringe has so much of that where you're seeing different sensibilities, like a clash of different art forms. Like we saw this like Ukrainian ballet about the war that made me bawl.
Of course.
We saw a show called Hold On to Your Butts. Have you seen this show?
I think I've heard of it.
It's a 3-person retelling scene for scene of Jurassic Park, word for word, scene for scene.
When I saw it, they had not yet been sued to change the name of the show.
Oh, gotcha.
It was still called like Jurassic Park something when I saw it.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Shout out to Natalie and the people making this show are incredible. There's like a live Foley artist on stage doing all the sound effects, and then 2 people enacting all of the characters and dinosaurs with like little props and stuff.
I'm wondering if we're talking about the same show. It might be, but it's been a second since I've seen it. So whoever's making good Jurassic Park shows out there, great job.
Yeah.
They're all good.
They're all good. Do you have favorite shows from Fringe? And then I want to talk about like when you talked about your brain opening with seeing different types of improv.
Yeah. Fringe. There was I first went to Fringe to do long form musical improv with Baby Wants Candy. Jessica McKenna and I went and we're like doing 25 shows in 25 days, although we were alternates. So we never did shows they wouldn't put us on shows at the same time. So we only did every other show. But the show that we did do every day was called Improv Explosion. We were doing 2 shows a day, some days. And that was a short form show. And after us, there was an Australian circus show called Simple Space, which is just all of the hottest people you can ever imagine. There's no like, they had like one bar and then the rest of it was just like them using their bodies and throwing each other around.
Wow.
And it was a real like, well, we're here to do short form. These are the strongest, hottest people in the world who are dancing and making art with their bodies.
Can I get a suggestion of something you'd find in a refrigerator?
Pineapple, great.
Cool.
Yeah. Sorry, to rewind a second though.
Yeah.
So I auditioned for the musical theater program. I did not get in. And then later that week, I went to an audition for my college's improv troupe, which was called Live Nude People with Clothes On, so that they could put live nude people on the posters and people would be like, what? And be like, oh, Brilliant. It's an improv show.
Yeah.
And that was like a big audit. Like there were this group was like a big deal. They did like, I'm skipping. So I got in and it changed the trajectory of my entire life.
You got into Live Nude People.
I got into Live Nude People. I was one of, I think, like 2 freshmen that did. And I did it for the rest of my college career. And I was like, oh, this is it. And we started playing with long form later on. It was a short form group. But that group performed for like every other Friday to crowds of like 300 people.
Wow.
It was a wild.
Holy cow.
I know. It was like a little bit of like we were kind of celebrities within the schools of the arts, like small celebrities. But it was like that group had built that they had been doing improv from like 10 years previous, pretty early adopters within like the U.S. college system.
And the quality must have been good because if they're building and retaining an audience of that size, like the reputation has to be good, right? Like
it was every other Friday at 11 p.m.
Okay.
And the group eventually, I think, got shut down for not like using spaces correctly, not like going to the proper channels of doing this is after I left.
Right.
But yeah, it was mostly.
You can put Live Nude People on your poster, but you gotta lock both locks when you leave through the back door.
But it was stuff where like there were like rules that we would have the audience shout along with us. And one of them was like, you will arrive pissed drunk. And it was like, it was a crazy thing.
Just requesting the worst audience possible. Yes.
And people didn't actually do it, but that was the vibe, which is that it was like a cool late night party,
right?
That was mobbed,
right? Smart for a college.
Smart for college. Weird for an improv scene.
Yes.
Like very, very rock and roll in ways that like I feel like by the time I got to UCB, it had already sort of like not homogenized, but it had become like a sort of known quality, like quantity. People knew what was up. Like I would hear stories about what it was like more rock and roll back in the day. I didn't witness as much of the rock and roll of UCB.
Gotcha. It was what was it? It was not quite elevator music. It was covers of rock tunes.
Yeah. I guess just less stuff that would be sort of markedly illegal. Less stuff that was going to get people sued or in prison.
There we go.
Yeah.
To circle back, you said when you did your college improv thing, you were like very soon. You were like, "This is it for me." What was the "this is it" about it?
Well, I think I always like even my into musical theater was I love singing, but I love comedy. Like I like Les Mis I enjoy, but like my favorite musicals were always like Legally Blonde, like the funny ones.
Yeah.
I have always been drawn to comedy, and improv is like, well, this is just that. There's nothing else that we're doing here,
right?
Aside from making people laugh. And I think that, you know, being a theater kid, I always had the bug of live audience reactions to stuff, just like in plays or whatever. And so this was everything I wanted. It was like a live audience. It was theatrical. It was funny. And it was being done by a bunch of people who were the cool kids to me. I was like, oh, this has like shine to it.
Yeah. Great way to describe it. Like for it to have shine, where it's like, okay, like I know what all this other stuff is, but this is like very sparkly, and also I don't have to audition for each role. Like I have the part being a part of the troupe.
Yeah.
And I'm in the family, and I can sing anytime I want.
That's right. And specifically they have games where they know that I can sing, and they're like going to set me up for success.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, okay, here, we're going to do a musical game, and you will always be in it.
Right. And be a big fish in that pond of singers, as opposed to the littlest fish in a pond of opera and Broadway stars.
Which is still how I feel.
Yeah.
Like within the world of musical improv, I am a big fish. Within the world of improv, I don't know, maybe within the world of theater, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So it's a very specific niche that I'm like, yeah, I'm very proud about what me and my peers do in this space. Like, where there are very few people that have had the opportunities that we have. Like, it's a small list of people that have their like 10,000 hours multiple times over in musical improv.
Yeah, that is wild to think about. And just to clarify, when you say my peers, you're talking about Piers Morgan?
I'm talking about my close personal friend with whom I agree on all issues, Piers Morgan.
My peers.
That's right.
Let's do some subscriber questions, because we're in this chapter about musical improv. It's important. This is from Shane.
Hi, Shane.
Hi, Shane. It's important in musical improv to show confidence all the time. Do you have any exercises for that?
Yeah. Not only is it important, it's like arguably the most important thing, because the number one thing that makes people hate watching musical improv is when you look at someone and you're like, I don't trust this person.
Yeah, they don't have it.
Excuse me. What we're asking you to do is go with us on an extremely perilous journey. Like, people get so afraid. Like when it goes bad, it can go bad. So you need to show them that you have like two hands on the wheel, and that even if you can't sing, because I know incredible musical improvisers that are like fine singers, but they're confident, and so no one cares.
Yeah.
To practice confidence, unfortunately, the answer is to do it so much that you have it's time, it's reps.
Yeah.
It's and I think a letting go of whatever it is that is holding you back from confidence, because truthfully, I mean, I guess it's different for everyone what they think is the thing that is scariest about musical improv. But I think that one of the boons it has is if you really just go for it, an audience member is, especially in an improv show, a lot of the time thinking like, this is not something I would attempt. I would like to watch it, but it's sort of musical improv specifically is a little bit of like a magic trick.
Yeah.
The fact that you're attempting it all is impressive, and you should like be proud of that, and you should own that. And don't worry as much. all of the rhyming and all of the singing skills in the world are not going to get you anywhere if you're not like having fun.
Yeah.
So if you can have fun within the context of doing this very hard thing, they will come along with you, but you have to show them that you're not scared.
Yeah.
But the answer is just to do it a lot.
And one gift that's on your side is the genre itself. Like the musical theater as a genre gives you permission to stand on the chair and face the audience and
to be loud and to be silly and to be like unapologetically big.
Yeah.
And also there's music, and that's going to pump serotonin into like the where's serotonin go? Brains?
I thought the
Blood?
lungs.
So it's going to pump serotonin into the lungs of the audience. But that's like, it's such a gift.
Yeah.
That music is going to, if it's good, and it will be, because basically everyone that agrees to make up music on the fly for a show is a genius.
It's a genius.
Insane.
Yeah.
The talent of these musicians, like across the board.
Yes.
Is going to make your job a lot easier. So just like ride the wave.
Ride the wave, bro.
Ride the wave, bro.
Hang 10. You just got invited to do it.
That's right.
I would say something that might be helpful, this is to Shane, as an exercise. Put on some musical theater soundtracks and dance around your bedroom and sing to them.
Yeah.
So, right? Like practice at home.
If practice is hours, you get, I mean, like I have a lot of, when I was doing, and I don't do as many of these anymore, but shows that were more focused about like dense lyrics and like rap and hip hop and that type of stuff. And I would just put on Run the Jewels instrumental albums in my car and freestyle on the way to shows.
Amazing.
Just to like get your brain and your mouth running and sort of like in a zero stakes environment.
Yep.
Just practice rhyming. And
when I first got to Boom and realized like how heavy on the singing and rap games it was like, that was me on my bike, like just putting beats on and just rapping about whatever I biked past.
There you go.
And like flopping at it at first and then getting used to it.
But what I always tell new people, especially for rhyming, is like, if you speak the language that you're doing the show in fluently, you know how to rhyme. If I sat you down in a corner and was like, here's a pen and pencil and paper.
Here's a pen and pencil.
Pen and a pencil. The pen is for lies, the pencil's for truths. No, but if I sat you down and was like, write me 10 words that rhyme with tree, you could do it. The thing that stops you is like being on stage and being nervous and like juggling multiple things at once.
Right.
But that's just muscle memory. So like you just practice it. You've got it. It's just a matter of getting stuff out of your way.
Yeah. That covers this next question. This is from Scott.
Hi, Scott.
Hey, Scott. Thanks for subscribing. He says, how can I, not musically trained, get better at short form games that involve music and singing? And that's one of the ways.
Yeah.
Like practice the rhymes, practice singing along to songs in your car, right? Belting, use the diaphragm. What else would you say?
I say like practice, sing. I mean, find music that you like and sing along with it unapologetically and like bravely.
Yeah.
Because I think what you will find is that audiences aren't really reacting to singing technique. They are reacting to confidence.
Yeah.
So unless you are really tone deaf, and at which point then you should take voice lessons, because there are people that teach stuff with that. Like all of that is teachable.
You can train a musical ear that's not musical?
100%.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't know why. I think people really like to cut themselves off the lens and be like, I'm not musical and I never will be. And there probably are some brains that, for whatever reason, like can't grok pitch or whatever. But I think for the vast majority of people, like there are those of us that were singing all the time when we were babies and kids and have practice, and there are those who didn't.
Yeah.
But like there is no reason why you can't do that practice later. But I think adults especially decide at some point in their life that they're either singers or they're not. And the ones who are not are just like, well, I'll never will be. It's like, well, are you practicing? Like, put in some hours.
Okay, so you're down some hours from when you were a baby.
Right.
And Zach was in Babies the Musical.
I was in Babies the Musical, starring as Baby.
As Baby. I was Baby.
I was Refrigerator.
I was
Baby.
the titular. Okay. Here's some, let's use this as a dovetail to talk about Offbook, the improvised musical.
Great.
Was that a dove?
That was a dove.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
This is what it looks like when doves fly.
When doves fly.
Yeah.
Lesser impressive title, just talking about when doves fly. You and Jess McKenna have collaborated as a duo for years.
Over a decade now.
That is wild.
Yeah.
I think you're the best musical improv thing going.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
The podcast is amazing. You both tour as Offbook, the improvised musical. Do you want to talk a little bit about the origins of that, and then talk about like how that feels different for you improv wise than other improv that you do?
Yeah. The origin is that Jessica has a very similar trajectory that I do. Like she came up through, we both went to college for theater, thought we were going to do musicals, found improv comedies, decided we liked this better, ended up in LA, ended up on the same non-musical team together, and just discovered that we had this sort of shared pool of past experience, loving musicals. That team ended up doing a lot of like freestyle rap for a while, and just had a lot of moments where I was like, oh, you and I have a lot of the same comedic like taste and instincts. Started writing like funny little music videos together, always like musical based. And then she was in the right place at the right time. She was a guest on Comedy Bang Bang back when Earwolf was like really recruiting new shows. That's the network that Comedy Bang Bang was on. And then eventually they were like, do you want to pilot your own show? And she was like, yes. And I want it to be this improvised musical. The part that I missed was that she was also in Edinburgh with me when we went to do that there. So we had both been sort of trained in like that school of narrative musical improv and come up through the UCB's like game-based improv, and Offbook is very much where those two things meet.
It's a perfect baby, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Because it's it uses that very quick get, singularly focused game style of UCB improv. Like each scene has its own standalone game,
and like if it doesn't, and this is where we differ from Baby. Like that, this is our. In the hierarchy of things that the scenes must have, like that's number one.
But then each, if we think of each scene as like a bead on a string, the bead has its own very specific game and pattern on it. So there's a plaid bead and a striped bead, but then the string of them serve the story as a whole, the narrative story. Which one thing we learned from Baby is like that's extremely rewarding to a crowd. Like watching someone pull off an improvised narrative is really lit my brain on fire the first time I saw it. Yeah.
Where I was like, this is it. People are losing their, like rightfully so. It's improv tricks that you and I would be like, we kind of see how it's being done where it's like, oh, this person is consciously remembering details from the first three scenes to make very important in the culmination in such a way that it feels like we've been building to nothing. Like this is the only way that this could have ended.
Yeah.
But I never saw it coming.
Is it because I haven't done very much narrative improv, and I'm bad at narrative in general. I don't have like a story brain.
Sure.
Is it prescribed? Like when you were doing Baby, is it like, okay, and then this person who we least expect to be the hero is going to show up at the end, or like?
So. Yes and no. When we were being taught and when we were practicing it, it's basically just like hero's journey stuff.
Yeah.
And there is a and there is a like. It's very useful when you're first getting into it to have more or less a pretty specific structure, like you were saying, where it's like we're going to meet the hero. Second scene, we're going to meet the villain. Third scene, we're going to meet someone in this world that is not related to the hero or the villain. Third scene is going to be a crazy group amalgamation of like random other people. Then we're going to collage the hero and the villain for the first time. And there's like stuffs like that go through. And I think that we really studied hard on that for like the first, I don't even know the time frame.
6 years.
Pretty quickly. No, still to this day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny if you listen to the trajectory of Offbook episodes, you see a lot of like sort of like hero's journey stuff at the beginning. And by episode 300, you almost never see that. And I think that what we have found is that like that stuff is all great. Hold that in the back pocket. And then do whatever narrative you feel like doing, because I think it got repetitive for us, at least with Offbook. And I think Baby feels this way too, where there is something really fulfilling to pulling off that narrative arc. But like you said, for us, I think it got a little prescriptive at times and didn't allow us to do other weird stuff like a musical that we did where the whole episode is just Spider-Man and his therapist, and other people are like showing up through like there's a villain that works there, but it's just like Spider-Man and Mary Jane like in couples counseling, like talking about how him being a hero is like really hard on their relationship.
So kind of one long scene broken up by other little interjections.
That one is, I think, straight up a mono scene, but like that is a narrative musical, but it is not a narrative musical as prescribed by like the hero's journey.
Yeah.
So, and what's fun to us is to be open, not every time, but like to have that be able to happen. So those building blocks of like, meet the hero, meet the villain, the villain's want should be directly counter to what the hero wants so that they will eventually clash. Like that stuff is great when you're learning to do narrative. And for us, we've just done so many of them at this point that it's no longer interesting for us, if it's that prescriptive, we will see it coming, and we don't want to see it coming.
Yeah.
We want to like find it on its feet.
Do you feel like then in choosing that second path where it's more organic and interesting and novel,
Sure.
Do you feel like you are sacrificing that wholehearted payoff that you felt as an audience member with the narrative stuff you saw early on?
Well, we don't. When it's working at its best, we still get that. If we just don't get it in the road that leads there is way twistier.
Okay.
And way less of a road. It's like 3 people getting on planes and flying out in different directions, and then something happens and they all crash, and then 2 of them go through teleporters and somehow they all end up in the same place. Like that's like most convoluted version of it. But we are still trying for that act 3 resolution of like everything comes together. Everything was relevant. It's just not a hero setting out on a hero's journey and a villain that gets in their way.
Yeah.
Like it's more, and part of that is, I think, a function of numbers. It's part of the reason why we stopped doing the podcast in studio is because we were just doing too many of them. They were getting worse. Like at a certain point, Offbook has been around for like 6 years now, more than 6 years. We were doing it weekly. That wasn't including the stuff that we were doing live at UCB with Baby Wants Candy and Magic to Do at the time. So there were weeks where we were doing like 3 narrative improvised musicals a week. Like we had to break the structure stuff.
Too worn of a path.
Yeah.
There's nothing interesting there for you.
I would find myself being like, oh, because of whatever road we're on, I have to sing a song about bread now. Like Scott, our pianist, has started playing. When I mentioned bread, we're in a bakery, we're doing a bread song. And what would happen is I'd be like, I have done multiple songs about bread before.
Yeah.
So now I have this math in my head of like, how do I find not my first game that I want to play about bread, not my second game that I want to play about bread, but like a third new thing?
I gotta find a new bread game right now on my feet while rhyming.
Yeah. And like my instinct is maybe the instinct that's coming to me is a new one. But there's this voice in the back of my head that's like, are you sure this isn't one that you've done before? And that's probably me being hard on myself and like, no one's going to know the other 2 bread songs that I do, but I don't want to do that song again.
Right.
That feels lazy to me.
Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have? I wanted to say like recently I have felt that feeling, that like catch about live streamed shows. And when live stream first hit the scene, I was like, yeah, I have no problem with that.
Sure.
Like, yeah, send it out there, because I would love for more people to be able to see more shows, and cross-pollination is great. And how do you learn unless you see what people are up to? And if you're in Wichita or wherever and you only have your short form group and you want to see long form, anyway.
Great for exposure and for sort of like sowing the seeds of what's going on.
Yeah, and like I would have killed as a little kid in Michigan to be able to see like Second City shows in Chicago or whatever. So I was like all for it. And only recently have I started being like, I've done like I did a live stream show where this thing came up and I did this type of scene. I don't want to do that again in case the same people are watching.
In case someone wants to put together like a mega cut of me doing bread songs.
You know what I
mean?
mean?
This guy's always doing bread songs.
It's like if the same things happen to come up, then it does start to feel like, but I used that already, or I did. And it's so interesting that you brought that up because it really is a thing now in my brain where I'm like, shoot, well, but I got made a game show host again. I don't want to play the same type of character or whatever.
Which is not a brain space that you would be really worrying about other than like the live stream of it.
Totally.
All, right? It's like, it's truly a function of this is being recorded and going out.
Yes. And like, if it's just improv for the people in the room, then there's a chance, like we would have Sentimental Lady fans that would come to our show every week when we were a weekly show.
Me too, and I could get tickets. You were holding down the end of Harold Night forever. Sold out real quick, Suzi.
My cash.
Yeah.
But that factor, it never entered my mind that it's like, okay, well, we would have repeat people and I don't want to repeat the same thing because it's ephemeral and the chances of them like remembering a type of scene that you did twice or whatever kind of didn't enter my own personal mind well.
Also, like the math of that actually being the same scene is like pretty tricky because like there's 8 people on a Harold team.
Right.
Like the suggestion is different. Everyone saw the way it came about. Like those things are not going to be the same.
But you have go-tos, or things that you use where it's like, oh, I love like making something an instructional video or like turning something into a genre frame.
I only do so many character voices.
Yeah.
Some of them sound the same.
Yeah.
Like,
and the live stream factor of like someone could edit this or someone could see it side by side and be like, oh, geez, that's like exactly it starts to make me feel self-conscious about my limitations as a performer or that I have crutches or go-tos that I'm leaning on or that something is going to feel samey.
And I think the truth is that like a lot of that is in our heads and a lot of that is like no one's going to make a supercut of these 3 bread songs.
Yeah.
1, because they're different, and 2, no one is thinking about this as much as we, the performer, are. And it's hard because like that's not a head. You want to be like present in the moment in a scene. You're already juggling multiple balls. You don't need the baggage of like, how does this compare to a scene I half remember from 3 weeks ago?
Right.
Like that's not useful. But I feel the same way. Like I don't have the answer to it other than like it's different. The product is different when the product lasts forever. And Jess and I talk about this with the podcast all the time. Like we can do it whenever we want in front of a live audience. And because we've been performing together for so long, like I am never worried about what comes out of either of our mouths. When we were doing the podcast with a guest, occasionally we would get stuff that's like, if this was live, it would have been fine. But when we release this as a podcast to be put in, digital amber for forever, what we're saying is like, we stand by this. And you have to edit that with a more sort of like thoughtful comb. You know?
Yeah, that's interesting too. Because your podcast is permanent.
Yeah. And people get mad about weird stuff, like even with the best intentions, people are still going to get mad. Like we had someone reach out to us and be like, I don't like the way that you guys are portraying orphans. And we're like, okay, what are they talking about? It's like, well, we were doing an Annie parody. We were doing a parody of like the musical Annie where like these were the orphans and they were sort of like scrappy and whatever. It was also sort of like Newsies-esque where like, this is a direct thing to this.
Yeah.
And this person, I am not in a position to tell people what should or should not upset them. But like, this was not a thing that was done with malice. And this was not a thing that, through my lens, is making a greater statement about anything other than the musical Annie and maybe also Newsies.
Right.
But this person's like, you're saying all orphans are like this. And I'm like, no.
I'm saying these particular singing orphans.
Right. But like, people are and will get mad about whatever they're going to get mad about.
Yeah.
So like if that's what people are going to view the stuff that is not offensive, now wait into like, oh, someone misgendered someone. And like that might be triggering for a listener. And like if I can take that out, I would love to take that out. I don't need that in there. That doesn't help me.
Yeah.
And it's not really about the like, should it have needed to be edited or not? We very much operate from the space of like, intention aside, if we think there's even a small chance that someone is going to like be hurt by something, we have to take it out.
Of course,
I make this sound like it's something that happens all the time. It's not. It's a conversation we've maybe had like twice over the 6 years that we've edited the podcast. But it is something that you think about when you're putting out a product that's going to be around for a while.
Yeah. Man. I didn't realize that you guys were editing those also. That's like a whole...
we're not and haven't been for years and years and years and years. But we'd walk away from a recording back when we had guests, again, years and years ago, and be like, hey, we got it. This person said, you got to take that out.
That person who said all teachers are bastards. We have to take that out.
We stand by teachers on this podcast.
I want to, so I'll start with a compliment for this part.
And then a sick burn.
And then a searing takedown. You are one of the most deft players I've ever seen in terms of like always being able to come off the back line while a scene is going on and take it where it needs to go.
Oh my gosh.
The amount of times that I have been like, oh, yes, but didn't see the move coming and you're right there with it. I feel like when I watch you improvise, I'm watching a trapeze artist who's not only catching the bar for themselves, but for everybody else on stage.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That's huge.
I want to know more about that, and this question feeds into that. Nicole says, what's going through your head when you're on the back line?
The back line is such I think a freeing place to be mentally, because you see as like an audience member, you see the scene happening. As an audience member who knows improv, you watch the math happening. Mm-hmm. And so like when I'm on the back line for my scene partners, I feel like a lot of the times, because I am not necessarily concerned with jokes per minute, because I'm not out there, I get to see the sort of like matrix in a way that they can't, because they have to be actively doing the scene. So a lot of times they've like built the whole sandcastle, but for whatever reason, they're like distracted by the dolphin over here.
Right.
And your job on the back line is like, hey, I would love to remind you of this beautiful sandcastle that you have built by the sandcastle inspector showing up real quick. And not that the dolphin's not great, let the dolphin do the dolphin's thing.
Yeah.
What was the question?
What are you thinking of when you're on the back line? What's going through your head?
I think I'm truly like, I'm enjoying the scene as an audience member and thinking like, what can I do to set this on fire in like the best way? What can I do to really push these people into the deep end, like to not even sort of like change what they're doing, like not to like really get all up in the metaphor, like they're swimming in a pool. Like I don't want to like take them out of the pool and put them somewhere else, but I do want to fundamentally mess with the pool in such a way that like whatever fun swimming they've been doing, they now get to do like 200 times over.
So you're finding ways to frustrate their want or take away the victory that they've gotten or make it more difficult to achieve their goal. Or
a lot of the times it's to shine a light on something that they did that I think is really funny that they have not focused on at all. Is for or have focused on a little bit, but I'm like, I need you to get back to this, because I like sometimes it's like they were building a sandcastle, they saw the dolphin, they've ignored the dolphin for too long. It's like I need more of that dolphin. Like as the audience member, just on what I think is funny. I think a lot of the times as a backline performer, basically what I'm doing is like, here's what I think is funny to me, and I want to put it in this scene. So like, and then like, the improv training is like, and hopefully that is also helpful to you. Yeah. Like the thing that I'm bringing is not just me coming in with a gun and firing it 3 times in the air because I think that's funny and hilarious, which I don't, by the way. But like what is the hoop that I can set up for you to jump through? Yeah. That when you do, you look like a genius. Yeah. Because those are the support moves that I enjoy receiving. Like Jess will do this all the time to me, where she's like, okay, that was pretty good, but I do need you to do it 3 times and harder. Yeah. And like when you do it, that people like, people really respond to that. But I would be lying if I said that there wasn't a little part of me as like a backline performer that is a little bit of a chaos agent. And I hopefully all of the time that I've spent like studying improv is that chaos dart that's being thrown in is like laced with something that will help the scene, even if it doesn't seem like it will initially.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, I love my friends and I love the funny scene that they're doing, and I would like to be involved in it too, please. Thank you. And hopefully I come in such a way that it's helpful.
Is it walk-ons more than tags for you or
Yes.
Yeah.
Way more walk-ons than tags. And that's partially because of the forms of improv that I end up doing are way more conducive to walk-ons than that. You very rarely see tags in narrative improv, and even through like my Herald teams, well, it's tricky. I did more tags in the Herald than in, I guess I love a tag. I love a tag too.
Yeah, a tag run as part of a second beat is so lovely in a Herald.
Yeah,
it
blows up the world.
Yes.
I will say in group games, a lot of the times I find myself in the opposite position, particularly on teams where like I was maybe a little bit of the more senior player, where it's my job to be like, hey, here's the pool. None of you kids better get in and jump around and like make a mess of that, and just sort of like giving them that thing.
Spelling out
and letting them do actually the fun part, and I just yell at them and pick on, Drew Spears.
Yeah.
For the whole scene.
For part 2 of this episode, go to yesalso.supercast.com. If you like this podcast and you want double the content, head over to yesalso.supercast.com and subscribe. You can also help us out for free by subscribing to us on YouTube and talking us up to your improv communities. If you have a question that you'd like us to answer in one of our Q&A episodes, or a topic that you think would make a great bonus episode, put it in a 5-star review. If you're a theater who would like to host us for a live recording and improv show, let us know at yesalsopod@gmail.com. A very special thanks to our producer, Ryan Rosenberg, audio and video editor, Brian Kessler, and social media czar, Britt Faye. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. No, we won't, Suzi. That's not how podcasts work. They won't even see us. They will listen to us, so it's actually the opposite of both things you said. Thanks for listening, and you will listen to us next week. Maybe. We don't know.